We are now looking at the provider's interface, the second of the three interfaces that make up the platform. Once we log in, the first screen we come to is our patient queue, the list of patients that are currently in a digital waiting room waiting to be engaged. However, before we go through the details of the patient list itself, let's click this button over on the right and open our consultation histories panel. From here, we can review our most recent consultation histories, including our past and scheduled consultations. Now let's take a look at the patient list. As you can see, it is clearly divided between scheduled and on-demand consultations, and we can expand or collapse each of those sections as needed. Each individual patient record presents us with several different options, in addition to the patient's general information. And of course, we can always immediately jump into a video consultation by clicking the Start button. But let's take a look at some of our other options first. Clicking on the General Card area of the patient record opens up the Patient Info panel, allowing us to review the details of the patient's appointment. Using the buttons at the bottom of the panel, we can toggle between the patient's appointment info and the chat panel, where we are able to engage the patient in text chat while they're still in the waiting room. We can also jump directly to the chat panel by using the chat icon in the upper right of the patient card. The chat tool opens up several additional workflow options, including providing wait time updates or even initial patient triage, where you could have a nurse or an administrator gather additional patient information via the chat prior to the provider engaging the patient. To help make that workflow even easier, you can use the status icon in the bottom left corner of the patient card to flag the patient record with a color. And, since we don't assign any specific meaning to these colors within the software itself, you can use them in whatever way best fits your organization's workflow needs. Another set of possibilities resulting from the chat are that you may either resolve the patient's concern without the need for a full video encounter, or you may discover that telemedicine is not the right fit for this patient's needs. And that's where our More Options button comes in. By clicking the three dots on the patient card, we open the More Options overlay, where we have access to Save and Close and Dismiss. Save and Close allows you to close out the patient's consultation request as a completed, billable encounter, removing the patient from the queue and generating a related post-encounter record. Dismiss, on the other hand, allows you to remove the patient from the queue without charging them, and indicate your reason for doing so. You sent them to the urgent care, for instance. Now that we've reviewed all the patient's info, triaged them, flagged them, and let them know their approximate wait time, we're ready to engage them in a video encounter. With the patient info panel open, we'll use the Start button that is now in the bottom right-hand corner of the panel to initiate the call. As you can see, the video player has loaded on the left and brought the patient into the encounter with us. On the right-hand side, we have the rest of our consultation tools, including the patient's appointment information, just like we had in the patient queue, a deeper view of their overall profile, the chat tools, which carries through from the queue, so we can continue to utilize this for clarity of communication between the patient and the provider, our default documentation tab, which you can see is structured as a standard SOAP note that we can quickly and easily fill in, as well as attaching our CPT and ICD-10 codes. Next to the SOAP is our Files tab. And you'll notice that we actually have access to our own files from here as well as the patient's, allowing us to quickly and easily transfer files to and from as needed. We can also select files and attach them to the consultation. This creates a duplicate of the file that is then permanently stored with this encounter record. So anytime someone comes back to review the documentation for this session, that file will be associated. In some cases, you may have a file that you want to be able to review with the patient in real time during the consultation. And that's what we're able to do through our screen sharing feature. So by clicking the Share button, we can share either our entire screen or just an individual application window. And I'm going to go ahead and select this scan and share that with my patient. You can see we're able to review this file together now in real time. We could also use our annotation tools to mark this up and then take a snapshot and store that annotated version in the patient's files, automatically attaching it to this encounter. We could even take this full screen to really focus on this information as we talk through it with the patient. Once we're done with that, I simply click the Share button again to turn that off and go back to just me and the patient. Next to the Share button is our Participants button. which slides open this panel showing us the patient and the provider information, as well as room for additional guests. And using this button down at the bottom, we can put in email addresses and invite up to 4 additional parties to join this consultation. Whether we're bringing in a specialist, additional members of the care team, or even additional family members that need to participate in this patient's care, we can invite up to 4 additional guests to join this consultation, giving us up to 6 total participants in each session: the patient, the provider, and our 4 guests. The last button over here is our settings button, and this immediately opens up our platform to the use of computer-connected medical devices. Really anything the platform can see as a camera or a microphone. Things like your digital stethoscope, your digital otoscope, or in our case, our little digital dermatoscope. And from the patient side, our patient's simply going to plug that in, select that as the camera from the settings panel. You'll see the video toggle over, and we are immediately getting high-resolution diagnostic imagery directly within the consultation interface. Again, we could use the annotation tools here to mark this up in real time. We could then take a snapshot and store that annotated image in the patient's files, automatically attached to this encounter record. Once we're done, the patient simply goes back to the settings panel, reselects their original camera. You'll see the video toggle back over, and we're once again face-to-face with our patient. Now that we've completed our video encounter, we can go ahead and end the consultation using either the red button down here or the End Consult button in the upper left-hand corner. We'll go ahead and select that and confirm it so we don't accidentally abandon our patient, and then it's going to automatically close out our encounter, generate our post-encounter record, and return us to the patient queue so we can engage our next patient.